Welcome to Hassle-Free Hosting by AirDXB, the podcast where we explore the world of short-term rentals in Dubai and beyond. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Greg from AirDXB. I am welcomed here today by Nina, the GM of Blueground. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. No, not at all. You're more than welcome at any time you wish to come. So, Nina, I want to get into Blueground, what you do, how long you've been in this market, your global situation, which is growing and growing. I can't get off LinkedIn or social media without seeing another location globally. So let's get into it. So Blueground, for those that don't know what Blueground is, what is Blueground?
So Blueground is a global leader in the market of furnished rentals over 1 month. So what does it mean actually? So we provide the furnished flexible rentals to our guests, and we focus on the segment of midterm rentals. So imagine someone who moves to a new city, doesn't know where they want to live, do not want to commit to the long-term deal, so they actually come and stay with us. So they can explore the different neighborhoods, the different city, understand, and actually many of them end up staying with us for longer time.
It's perfect.
So Blueground actually started quite a while ago in 2014, and if you think back to these ages, this concept was quite revolutionary. Flexible rents, all done digitally, no dealing with agents, and actually also a lot of bookings directly through our website, right? So. And since then, we've grown a lot. So right now we have, I would say globally, somewhere around 18,000 properties under management. We are in 40 plus cities. We do have different models. We have our core cities. Now we also do the franchising model where we actually go into local markets and we find a suitable partner and we franchise with them so that they can develop the brand and the whole operations locally. So last year we actually opened like this 10 cities. So we went to Bangkok, Tokyo, Cairo, Saudi Arabia. So we went to Riyadh, a few other cities in Europe. We are also doing in US right now, and we'll be expanding further. We are doing on-demand model where we basically will come in with some corporate clients, and we actually go to a smaller cities where we don't have any operations, so we would not normally operate, and actually find an apartment for them, furnish them, do Blueground for whatever period they need, and then once the lease is open, we'll get out of there.
Okay, so to say that Blueground's busy is an understatement, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
And there's their DXB, but we're in Dubai, and that's us. So anyway, we'll talk about us in a minute. So let's just move this conversation back. You talk about doing a minimum 1 month stay.
Yeah.
How is that working? Do you feel that could have cut a segment of your market because those that want to stay for a week or two obviously can't stay with you? I mean, how are you finding that? Are you happy that you're not offering that to those types of people? Or?
Look, I think this is it's a little bit of a loaded question, so let me slightly unstructure it. Yeah. So I think the core of our segment is 1 month plus, right? So, and this is a very conscious decision, right? So this is our target, and we believe that this is a market that is underserved, right? Because there is a lot of offer for the tourists, but often when you're a business professional, you're moving to new cities, you do not necessarily want to stay in a hotel. You would prefer to stay at the home, which is fully equipped. You can come in, cook, do your things, explore as a local. And so this is our main target. And then also, depending on the cities that we operate in, we also follow the local regulations. So not all of the cities around the world allow short-term rentals. So actually they're cracking down on the short-term rentals as we speak, right? But also US, no? In New York, they, for example, they introduced minimum one stay, right? So for example, for us,
18 months ago?
Yeah, wasn't a big issue because this is our focus anyway. And then of course in the cities where it's possible, like here in Dubai, we do also short term, right? So, but even there, I would say that our target would not be like this weekend traveler. Even there, it's more about 1 or 2 weeks. So it's a little bit longer on average than you would think of a typical holiday home. And I think apart from like a specific segment, I think it also has a variety of benefits, right? I think that operationally, it's a little bit easier in a sense, right? Because I do on average 3-4 check-ins in a year per apartment, while a typical holiday home will do
4 a month.
Yeah, but they do 8 in a month, right? Yeah. So it's a very different scale of operations, and of course I think it's slightly easier for us operationally.
100%. But not to grill down into the financials too much, but what we find is the more turnover, and I'm not talking about we do one night, I mean ours is actually minimum 2, but our business models are different. You're going for more of a corporate long-term stay, as you said, whereas we're more approaching the tourism market. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which the average stay is, well, it's 4.8 nights, round that up. It is 5 nights, so that we're going to see that churn. Now, of course, seasonality, that is going to change accordingly, but I must say the idea of having minimum 1 month stays and looking at our operation, that'd be fantastic. But I love what we do, so we're not going to encroach on that. It's a point you've just brought up. When you look at, let's say, New York have brought in the regulation, minimum 1 month stay. How much pressure of competition is that putting on Blueground? Because surely a lot of companies are going, okay, well, we're going to do that. And I bet your competition's gone up 1,000%.
I wouldn't say so, right? Because I think that we are ahead of this competition, right? Because we've been working with our clients for a really long time. So they already trust us and they know that we are set up this way, right? So I think from this perspective, I think it's easier for us because then the competition need to change all of their operations and we are already ahead of time. I think another part that helps us that we very early on recognize the strengths in direct marketing and direct booking. So actually majority of our sales, I would say about 85%, actually comes directly through our website and through our sales agents, right? So we bypass all of the other channels, and I think this is actually speaks to the strengths of the brand as well. And a lot of our clients are also return clients. They coming back, and it also, I think what helps is because we are international, it also taps in to this network effect.
Yeah, great.
Because you have a person who is in New York and then they go to Paris and then they go to Dubai and they go somewhere else and they say, okay, I go to the Blueground. And this was actually thought through from the very beginning. The idea was to offer to this segment of people the company who can offer them the standard of the apartment, the standards of the service, as well as familiarity, where you say, okay, I go into the Blueground, I know what to expect.
Yeah.
I know that I will be taken care of. I know that it's going to feel the same. And so we were set up this way from the very beginning, and I think this is what sets us apart from the competition and also brings our success.
I love it. I really do. We've teamed up with Blueground, and we'll talk about that later on. But as we were talking just before we started filming this, I set AirDXB up in 2018, and Blueground had formed, it was 2 years previous to that, 2016 in Dubai?
In Dubai, yes, we came in 2016.
In Dubai, and it was always one of these that I looked at, and again, the market was so, and again, we'll talk about this later on, but the market was so different back then, and especially when you talk about your model, which is effectively subleasing.
Yes.
Is that what Blueground did so well is every single apartment looked the same, but was at such a high quality. And there was almost like, I love it, it's very small, but it suggests how good Blueground are. The speaker system you put in.
Yeah,
it's always the same, and it's a very expensive brand. What is it?
Marshall.
Marshall, that's it. You always put this in, like, because I looked at it and went, that's amazing, but I hope they don't get broken that often, because we know that they're not
really.
They're not really, which is perfect, but we know they're not cheap. But what was great to see, if Blueground are willing to put that type of appliance, or whatever you want to call it, into that apartment, demonstrates what Blueground's business model is.
Although we had few stolen, actually.
Sorry?
We got few stolen.
I was looking at that thinking, oh no. But it demonstrates the level that Blueground are going to. We're willing to put this in. It's an expensive piece of kit. People sadly will break, but you're willing to do it because that's the high profile.
Look, I think it's always, for me, there should be a right balance between price and quality, right?
Yeah.
Because I think what we also want to invest is that in a longevity, right? And then when you put such kind of items in, you also know that they're going to last you for longer, right? Versus just putting something cheap and then dealing with all the other consequences of repair, maintenance, and other things, which then inevitably impact the guest experience and cause a whole series of other operational issues as a chain reaction, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And then again, as you've said, you want to keep your overheads down, so you don't want a maintenance man going every 5 minutes to go and repair. So this sort of thing. So when we look at your type of clientele, is it predominantly corporate companies and institutions with staff, or is it individuals?
It's a combination. So depending on the city, but on average, 40-50% is a corporate clients. And this includes both when the company is paying for the stay or even individuals affiliated, where we market through the company our service, and then employees can go ahead and just decide to rent. Of course, in this we also include, for example, relocation agencies with who we work, who routinely move the people around around the cities, and the rest are individuals who can stay with us for a variety of reasons. Some come for leisure. I think that recently more and more develops like this as people move around and they just don't want to have a fixed rent, right? The whole nomad kind of lifestyle, I would say.
And has that grown since COVID? You've seen an increase in that attitude?
I think more and more, yes,
Yeah.
a little bit. And I think especially after the COVID, what happened, I think that Dubai had an inflow of people like this. Again, I have more experience in Dubai in terms of the guests that we have because I manage this market. But for sure, the Dubai openness and willingness to adapt and change for sure attracted a lot of people here during the COVID and after.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure you've seen this probably as well.
COVID. Well, let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about COVID now. It was, quite possibly for me, the toughest, excluding the current market, which we'll talk about in a minute, the toughest time, but in reflection, one of, can I use the best time for COVID? I'll be careful with that wording, but best times. What we found is because our operations are scaled right back because we couldn't move around in the city because of restrictions. But what you found as time went on, more and more guests realised that they couldn't get on a plane and fly. So those jumped into, let's call it mediocre accommodation, realised that actually we need a quality product because I'm not flying home for another month, or I'm not going to fly home for this. Or I might as well just stay in Dubai because the country I'm going to is either not restricting people, so I'm worried about getting COVID, or over restricting, or the passage coming in and out by flights, and I'm worried about going into into containment or something like that. Is that looking back, we were arguably the most profitable we've been per unit because our overheads dropped off. Now at the time, and I'm sure you agree with me, and I'm sure the rest of the world would, every morning you woke up with your head in your hands worried about what was going to happen that day. But when I look back on it, I should have potentially relaxed a bit more because the business ran incredibly well with minimum overhead. Rates we found actually went up by roughly 7 or 8% because what we found is that people were gravitating towards a better quality product. And actually, when you look back at those 2 years, what was a horrible, horrible time as a business, I've got to be careful if I put this. It was okay, and it's strange. But how did Blueground find it all? So
I think that it was a little bit different for us, especially in the beginning, because again, as you mentioned, we do lease sublease model, meaning that we had committed rents. So for sure, what happened is that we had to come up with a plan where we see which part of the portfolio we can keep, which probably we need to renegotiate with our landlords, and part of it had to go back, right? Because what we were also thinking about, of course, we have the employees. We need to make sure that we also, as a company, are responsible for them.
Yeah.
So part of the portfolio had to go. Part stayed, we renegotiated, part went on the revenue share, so we had different deals with our landlords.
Just so clear for anyone listening to this, what is the actual business model of Blueground? So revenue shares to effectively subleasing. Just give us a quick
So I'd say
idea
about 90% of our portfolio is lease sublease and about 10 revenue shares.
Lease to sublease, so that is you going to an owner paying effectively a year's contract, they take their money and then you can go away and then lease that out on your monthly contract.
Exactly.
And that's 90%, and then 10% is similar to what AirDXB do, which is a revenue share. You take a percentage of the gross income.
Correct.
Right, okay.
And so we had to renegotiate to make sure that we stay afloat as a company and we are also successful. And then as the time progressed, and then of course in parallel we had our sales teams working overtime where we would contact the companies and try to sell our services and everything to make sure that we also get the clients in. As the situation a little bit stabilized, I would say over like 6 to 8 months, we also have seen that Dubai has enacted a lot of the regulation to make sure that the city was safe, but also opened up a little bit more compared to other countries.
Chipped away, didn't they?
Yeah, so they chipped slightly, slowly. So I think that what that made as a positive for us, it created more demand and people coming in. And then, of course, again, there you have typical dynamics. Some want to go to a hotel, others want to choose the holiday homes, others, as you said, who have seen that Dubai is open and has adapted so well compared to other parts of the world of management of the COVID and the situation with the vaccines, the safety regulations. We had, I remember, an app where you can say, okay, I want to go out. It was ready. While in Europe, you had to go print a form, fill it in. And
we had an app, and then you got the passcode, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then when it was at the tightest regulations, you needed that to go to the chemist or the hospital or a shop.
Exactly.
Remember that was brilliant. It wasn't, because at
It
the time
wasn't,
you're
no,
like,
but
it's
again,
frustrating, but it was brilliant that they were allowing you to
because
do it.
Dubai
and it was so
has managed to create this very safe environment and very well managed situation. I think many people felt attracted not only to come here for vacation, but to stay longer and stay during COVID here, right? And I think that kind of created the people who came in, the people from here who couldn't travel and also had to stay somewhere, right? So in the end, the demand was positive.
It would have been for you because of the quality of product. People
Yeah.
know what they're getting. And so you would have seen that consistently
Exactly.
coming
And I
through.
think that on top, you had the 2022 happen, which I don't know, do you consider still part of COVID or not, which brought the inflow of Eastern Europeans
Yeah.
into Dubai due to the political situation and tensions
Yes.
in Europe. And I
Yeah.
think this was kind of a second wave of positive impact on the Dubai, I would say, holiday home and rental and real estate industry, right? Because there was a whole thing,
Well, that was
It kind of relaunched it, no? And
It did,
in a way.
it did. I mean, we look at...
Also, COVID relaunched villas, I need to say, no? Because people were trying to move out from the apartments to villas.
I'm
and
worried
then
if it happens
villas,
again, I need to have a garden, just in
exactly,
case.
villas exploded. You couldn't find the villages going. Anything would go, quality or no quality.
Yeah, and that's what kick-started this all. I've been in real estate since 2000. I moved out here in 2011, 2012. I started AirDXB in 18. But I've been in real estate for many years in Dubai, and from 2016 right down to 2022, the market was dropping. This is the housing market in general.
Yeah.
Depends on the location, but on average 4% year on year. There was no stimulus.
It lost like
Nothing was
30% between 2016 and 2021.
Yeah, yeah. It was, and there was no reason. It was just the fact that no one was considering Dubai. And then
And
you
I think
see
there were
what
a few
happened.
things as well, because I think there were a lot of people moving out. I think at the moment, for example, I remember that government took an action on schooling fees, right? Because one of the main reasons why people move out of Dubai is school fees are so high compared to Europe, right?
Yeah.
And I think at this point, Dubai introduced a cap on the fees, so they could not continuously raise. And they also enabled a few other regulations, right? For example, allowing unmarried couple to live together, now have kids.
Yeah.
All of the different types of residency visas, right, for the professionals, golden visas, investor visas, simplified the whole company formation regulation and allowing all of the companies full ownership in the mainland. All of this, I think, was done across and around COVID and after, and it's all kind of added up to this effect that we see of...
and with the conflict, it was these different segments happening at the same time, which then just pushed this on. And when you also look at the West as well, the West hasn't been doing very well in general, politically or whatever that is, we won't get into that now, that then has thrusted people to
Absolutely,
to leave,
and it's
to leave
not
their
just
countries.
people moving here. I think it's businesses moving here. I think these are people who are moving capital and investments here, right? And that's why I think this growth is still fueled and is still happening in kind of rounds and rounds, and it's so sustained.
Agreed.
I would say no one who would have seen that the craze of 2022 would continue in 2025.
How much longer do you think it would continue?
It's hard to say. I think it's
Come
hard
on.
to say.
Give it a guess,
I
at
think
least.
there are a few things, right? So I think that we all know about the crazy amounts of supplies that are coming in, right?
Yeah.
So there are, I think the latest, I got a database in December. There were about 1,200 projects into planning and the development phase as per ERA. 950 of them are under development. This is about 240,000 units. And this is excluding villas, so these are just apartment buildings.
Yeah.
This is crazy. 30% of this supply is coming in 2025, if not delays, of course, but like roughly 2025, first quarter of 2026.
It's about 50,000 units.
Another 40% is coming in 2026. So I think this will bring down the market to a certain degree of slowdown. But I think it will also be very variable depending on the neighborhoods, right? Because we also need to see where this supply is coming, right? So there are for sure some of the very established neighborhoods, Marina, downtown, DIFC, City Walk. So these are the ones which I think that even if they experience some kind of slowdown or drop, it will be much less significant compared to other neighborhoods.
Do you not think that more property coming in is going to show better value for money in other neighbourhoods, and especially if the connectivity to the rest of the city is getting better and better?
Yeah.
Why pay, I'm plucking numbers out of thin air, but why pay 20% more to be in the marina when I can get a newer tower with a better road infrastructure to get me from wherever my office is?
Look, I
and save
think
20%?
It is always a combination. I think you'll find part of the demand who is there for marina and will never move out because they like being there and it's already fully developed. You have all the services around, you have schools, you have restaurants, what's not. And there will be for sure part of the neighborhood who say, okay, this is too much, the prices are too high and I want to move out, right? I think we'll see a little bit of both.
If prices were to
But
stop
we need
dropping,
to, I think we still need to have a few years for the infrastructure. I think there are a few things that are key for this development. The infrastructure is road infrastructure and public transportation. We need to have better public transportation, which is very well developed. If you've seen the new map of Dubai Metro by 2030 with, 10 lines, if this is implemented on this time scale, I think that by 2030 we see this more disbursement. But I think that a big constraint right now is the traffic and the lack of the public transport.
And the new one is almost just the blue line, I think, going into JVC, isn't it? That's the next one.
Yeah, but
which is the big one.
And I think there are a few things, like right now, even the lines that is there, it's very long and it's very slow compared to a well-developed metro, right? It takes you 1 hour, and Dubai is not that big to get you 1 hour through all the stops. So I think there will need to be few more tweaks done to make sure that this distribution across the city happens, but also happens in a sustainable way for everyone.
No, I agree. If the market does come off a little bit,
Yeah.
long term, and let's say sales prices, how would that affect Blueground? Would it affect Blueground?
Yeah, for sure. I think that considering the lease sublease and our main model, it will be great for us, right? Because again, we pay upfront to the landlords on a fixed price, and it's our main cost, right?
So you're secretly hoping for this then?
A little bit, I mean.
I'm with you. I mean, you were doing what you're doing. You're leasing off owners. From our perspective, we're representing owners on the profit share model, and a majority of owners will say, right, what's make us more money, long term or short term? And so, of course, with the long term doing what it's doing, and I would go as far as to say this is our toughest time in the company at the moment. A lot of what we're now saying to owners is, okay, well, what's your plan? What's your 2-year plan? What happens if in 2025 the market starts leveling off? A lot of investors decide that they want to start sell because they've seen 20%. That's enough for them. Is that going to put more pressure on the market? Does that mean you would sell as an owner? And it's a continuous conversation that we're having with owners, and we're having to change how we're now approaching these owners with, rather than, we can make you, which was true, 20, 30, 40% more than long term. That ended 18 months ago, probably more. I know there's still a few agents out there saying it, which I don't quite understand, but that is gone. And I think the market, can you argue, for our sector is different. I would say it's more difficult, but I would say maturing is the wrong word, but you're finding that the short let or holiday let, or in your case, your corporate lets or the rest of it is maturing. It is becoming tougher, which I think is actually a good thing, because you might see, because I'd love to see the number. But it's also because of
the competition. Because
that's what I was about to say. I'd love to see the number of how much people have come into this market in the last 2 years, management companies.
But I don't know the companies, but I've seen the number of listings. The number of listings has more than doubled.
We're talking about 28,000 now, aren't we, according to AirDXB?
So I had a different statistic. I think that in 2022 there were about 20,000, and in 2024 there were 45. Across the entire Dubai, so I'm not talking specific neighborhoods, but these are all listings.
We look at Dubai, this is off AirDXB, because it's so hard to find the data. So AirDXB, which we know is the global statistic. Entire places, so not shed rooms, which we can't do in Dubai, but entire places, they are suggesting quarter on quarter, Q4, it was, I've got to remember this now, it was 23,000 units, and that's now jumped up to 27,000 units.
I thought it was, I'll need to check, but I thought it was much more than that.
Well,
I think, again, from AirDXB, this is the same data source.
It's AirDXB.
But even if it's not double, but even if it's from 17 to 27, it's still,
huge.
It's huge.
It's huge. And the population increase, the tourist increase, we're talking 8%, 24 to 23, not all of them are staying in short-let style accommodation.
No, for sure. I think, look, it's, and you probably have seen it, everyone has seen it in the industry. What happens is that you're not able to, you don't have enough demand to fill in. I think everyone's seen the craze of Airbnb and the short let in 2021, 22, and so it's like, wait, let's enter.
I think even now.
And they continue, exactly. And then what happened is there are so many entrants, so many, they managed to convince the landlords, because I think that the landlords also, you have kind of two groups. You have a stable one who say, okay, I like Blueground, I like AirDXB, AirDXB, sorry. They bring for me my medium return, I'm happy, I'm here for the long term. And then you have a group of opportunistic who would switch between two. We had some landlords who switched from one to another within our company.
Really?
Within a few months, like, oh, I'm not happy with this, let's go here, right? So you have this group of landlords who would be attracted by these new entrants who are interested, like maybe offers them more flexibility. They tell them, oh, I'm going to deliver you, I don't know, 250,000 for this unit, which is unrealistic in any condition. And then this, in the end, drives the pricing down, utilization down, and revenue down for everyone, both the operators and the landlords, right? So I think this is what we are seeing still happening. Just to give you an example, I had a friend. So I used to be in management consulting. I used to work for Boston Consulting Group until a few years back. A friend of mine reached out to me saying, oh, how is it going in Blueground? I've seen you do great things. Let's meet for a coffee because, I want to open holiday home. It was half a year ago. I said, don't.
Yeah, agreed.
And he's like, well, too late, I already quit my job and I'm doing that. And I was like, well, good luck, but don't.
Excuse me. I couldn't agree with you more. I reckon if it's not every other day, it's every third day, there'll be someone saying, hi, I want to set up, and I hate this word because it's being bandied around, an Airbnb arbitrage. Because I've seen...
What is an Airbnb arbitrage?
Arbitrage. I don't know, it's American. It's American. That's what we get. Want to set up arbitrage. So exactly what you're doing. You want to lease off a landlord and then rent it out. And I'm saying, and I have said it, I've said, unless you're very well seasoned and experienced, like Blueground, who've been doing this for many, many years, to enter into this market with this level of competition is tough. And since I formed the company, again, it depends on the stats because you can't get the actual, you have to go by ADNA.
Sure.
When I brought the company in 2018, there were 1,000, 2,000 units, that was it. And to look where we are now in 2024, which we're talking 27, 28,000 from what we're seeing, the market has exploded and definitely coming off the back of COVID. And what we've then seen of people coming into the market, so you talk about large real estate brokerages, it was a buzzword, it was short term, especially after because it was COVID and you need to have that, accommodation that you can get out of a contract easy. All these brokerages have come and set them up, and I'm sure you
but
will...
they're tiny, they still have, we talked to all of them for our partner network, they all have like 30, 50 units.
I couldn't agree more, and I was just about to say, unless your heart and soul is in this, which is by far the hardest, this is personal opinion,
it's
but the
not
hardest
an easy
real
market.
estate, but the hardest real estate sector there is, because there's so many moving parts, you can't just bolt it on and think it will work. And how many people have you heard say, oh, it's not that difficult, it's just dropping a key off in the reception.
Sure.
And you've got your head in your hands and like, you have no idea. I mean, we're 250 members of staff plus and growing. It's a big operation. And so I don't think it was approached, this is a good thing for us, but it wasn't approached by people who really took it to heart, who really gave it their all. Because this is not something you can just do.
An opportunity, so they're going to be an arbitrage, but it didn't happen, no, for sure. And I think all of the seasoned companies who actually been here for a while, I think there are a few more who've been there since 2017, 18 here in the market. They all know that. Yeah. And they're always like, okay, great. But that's why I think it's also what's going to happen a maximum a year. I've been saying it for a year and a half already, but I think we'll see people exiting, the landlords coming back to being more reasonable in terms of their expectations. We're going to see the consolidation of the market, so there are going to be few strong players who are going to emerge and grow and continue to grow here in Dubai and maybe even in Saudi or Abu Dhabi, but we'll see this consolidation in the industry. It's inevitable after what happened.
I agree. It's gone too far, and if you look at, what your class is one of the bigger firms, we will imminently be hovering around the 1,000 mark of property management. It'll be this year. At what point we're waiting to see because of this long-term business that we're going through, which is sadly we're seeing owners going to, and of course selling, a lot of people exiting the market. Digressing slightly, I was having a chat with an investor and he said, oh, blah, 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 the market's going up and up and up. And I said, okay, there was 3,000-4,000 transactions, I think, last month or month before. So that's 3,000-4,000 sellers, not just buyers. So there are people who are considering this market, could be levelling off. So you've got to remember that. You've got to think there's two sides to this market. But if it does start levelling off and it does start dropping, it will be interesting to see what the companies do. Will there be mergers, just correctly as you said, but the longer this situation goes on with the level of competition there is in the market, and I'd love to get my hands on how many management companies there are, but I can't go on social media or on LinkedIn without seeing a new company popping up. I even saw someone yesterday offering 10% management.
No, but there wasn't that. There are people who are offering free management for like 3-6 months, up to a year.
You can't make money.
No, you can't.
Because the level of overhead that you're paying because of the size of the operation.
And you will never survive. You'll not survive these 3 months.
Ever survive.
Unless you have some backer with really deep pockets who is actually financing you, because otherwise you can't.
Well, it won't take long for him to look at the spreadsheet and see everything in red and think, But I'm with you on this. I think it needs to consolidate. And also, this isn't an easy job. You want people in this market industry to know what they're doing and take it very seriously.
Absolutely.
It's some of the horror stories, I'm sure you've had them, of different experiences these owners have had and what's gone on. I think
it's both the owners, but also the guests. I think it's both sides.
I mean, look, no, I'm talking about the horror stories owners have had to them, sadly. But when we talk about guests, I mean, that's an interesting subject. And I'm sure we've both got stories we could probably exchange, probably not with a microphone here, but it's tough. I mean, we've had, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of guests through our books. And so you've got these different positions, and of course you've got some wonderful guests and some not so wonderful guests, but that's part and parcel of what
I think it's always a spectrum, but what I meant is that also guests, if you don't have a professional operator, in the end you have suffering both the guest and the owner, right? Because this is the same operator who is not able to deliver the service, who is not able to satisfy the guest, or even, I don't know, provide a clean apartment and other things.
Yeah.
And another part there is also when you start, because we own with my husband a few apartments, and I worked with another operator who is actually quite big through the short rentals.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't actually working in Blueground yet, but I knew about Blueground, we considered Blueground for a while.
Okay.
The only reason why we didn't go with them, because our apartment was upgraded, so we didn't want to change anything. And Blueground at that point had, okay, this is our standard. If we come,
this is what we do.
We came and we changed. Okay, this is not for us at the moment. And so I remember that. We as an owner came back to Dubai and we stayed there, like in our apartment, and I found food under the bed. And I was like, well, you as an operator, you're probably gonna go and check when the landlord is coming, so the cleaning is. So I think this is what happens when the professional operator is not professional. And this happens to the landlords, to the guests, and you find the damages in your properties, the guest is not happy. And if you're also not making money or you don't have capital to actually satisfy the guest, because you need the maintenance team, you need the cleaning team, and the guest experience team, you need all of that, and you need money for that. And if you're offering for free the services, how are you able to do that?
Well, how are you incentivized?
How do you market? How you do get the guests in?
And it's not a cheap business. It's very expensive. You're running, I remember someone said this to me way back when, but they said, this is back when I first set up, I said, what you're effectively doing is running a hotel across a city. So as we know, a hotel is one building.
Yeah.
You have your reception down there, you have this down there, you have that there. You're spreading this over everything. And when you start talking about doing 100 cleans a day across a city with traffic, with issues with building management for whatever reason. I mean, we are on it because we've been doing this for so long, but there's always that building management, this is what you can't do, this, you can't do that. And it can slow you down. So the amount of money, resource and time you have to put into what you don't anticipate that day. And when you start going into growth, that's a lot. And
if something is falling through the crack, multiply it by 100, 200, 300, and you have more things falling through the crack, right? So there are a lot of planning and organization that goes into the business, I think is highly underestimated. And that's why we are happy to have our overmonth bookings.
But this is it. You don't have to worry about that when people like me do. It's like, oh, right, what's going on with this? I said, if we're doing around 100 cleans a day, it's a lot. Yeah. And the thing is, you've got to do 11 a.m.
I think for us, the highest is about 40 to 50 per day. And that's just because it's also not equally distributed through a week or a month, right? Of course, you also have peaks. And,
this goes up and down. I mean, we could do 150 more. It's crazy, but you have that tight time frame. So it's a lot of pressure. And then if you look at this competition that's coming in, it'd be interesting to see how much of it will stand. And it's something that I've said to my team, this is going to be effectively standing the test of time. Who has the longevity, who has the know-how, who has the experience to keep going? Because I feel this market is probably saturated.
Look, I think you can see it. If you go back to 2017-18, there were a few companies that emerged, and there were several who survived COVID. I think this is going to be very similar, right? Different conditions, different situation, but in the end, as outcomes will be similar. There are going to be few companies who will survive, and as a few, maybe the new ones are not the same, right? But we'll see that the strong companies that are able to organize themselves, that understand the nitty-gritty of the business and understand, and I hear also for the long term, not to make some arbitrage, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a different, who have a purpose, who have a vision, who have their own segments that you are targeting to tourists, we are targeting longer term segments, right? But again, this is about having a vision and where you want to go ahead. Right? Because one of the things that we actually want to do as Blueground globally is we want to tap into the long-term market. we want to tap in this one and say, look, how many people would just want to rent with us and not think about furniture, utilities, and other stuff?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many, right? But again, this is a very new market. It's a new concept. It takes time to develop and to communicate and to set up, right? But again, it's all about being here with a vision and then going there. So it's not a, I don't know, it's not a short-term kind of thing, right? An
really
arbitrage
isn't.
thing.
It isn't.
Maybe it is, but it's 5 years ago, not now.
Back when there was money in it, but I think it's almost fashionable is the wrong word. But it's like, again, it's like this buzzword.
Yeah.
It's like coming out of COVID that these real estate brokerages went, oh yeah, short term's the thing to do, and that's sort of died a painful death.
Yeah.
Excuse me. There's now individuals coming through saying, oh, I'm going to arbitrage and I want to lease to then do this to then do that. And we're saying to them, well, look, if it's you on your own, the capital you've got to inject not to only run it, but then also you've got to look at long term. So what you're leasing it for versus what you can short term it for, and your profit margins are just decreasing.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'd be interesting to see what this landscape holds, because aside from market conditions, it's who's got, as I've said, the longevity or the finance or the experience to keep going.
Look, I'll give you another example. So when I came in, so one of the things that we do, right? So of course, the Dubai in the long term is a very particular market where all the landlords want to have one check.
Yeah.
We as a company don't do this. Our minimum is 4 checks.
Okay.
And there is a certain competitor who has a very similar model to us. We all know them, they're a great company. And my team was coming to me and saying, look, we cannot compete with them because they're offering 1 check. We cannot compete, we need to change. I was like, guys, 10 years, they just get funding. Wait, you'll see in a few months, half a year max, they will stop doing this because you cannot.
It's the cash.
It's the cash, right? Because of course initially they want to do it because they just get the financing, they want to build their portfolios, they want to build their name, and they're going to do it for sure. They will be successful for some time, but at some point they're going to stop because it's not sustainable.
Agreed.
And they did.
Agreed. Yeah, it's cash flow. Yeah, it's cash flow. Speaking of competition, have you seen a lot more come into the market that are similar to Blueground, doing the minimum 1 month, similar product?
So I think that in terms of lease model, there is for sure one who does it, who is big enough to consider a serious competitor and considering the. In terms of 1 month and plus, I don't think so. I think maybe a smaller companies, yes. And also in Dubai, you need to consider that you have hotel apartments. Yeah, so I think the most similar potentially is also Sonder, but again, they have the whole other set of problems as a company.
Well, I was about to say, they've having some issues, aren't they? I mean, look at the share price there is an interesting last few years, isn't it?
No, because what they actually try to solve for what you were saying, right? So running a distributed operation, and they try to bring it together and optimize there.
Yeah.
But then you need to also think, how do you structure this kind of deal, right? Where you are taking a building, it's a much bigger commitment versus individual units, right? So how do you structure it in the right way to make sure that it's actually successful? And this is actually something we are working on now because so a few years back, we actually acquired one of our competitors in South America. It was called Tabas. Right. So they're now part of Blueground. So they actually done it very successfully with the buildings all across South America in 3-4 cities. So this is something that we are working on now to expanding as well across other cities. And where I see, for example, right now in this situation where you say, okay, you have individual landlords, the market is like, what I'm thinking now, okay, how can I take a building, where and which building and with each owner, so that I can actually move from individual landlords to more institutional one, right? Because also this is a big thing, but in Dubai, we do not have that many institutional owners of individual units, right? Because, for example, in US, a lot of units are owned by insurance companies or like funds, right? So we work in US a lot with institutional landlords. So we would like to bring a little bit of this model of institutional landlords plus the buildings here in Dubai and actually start to develop our portfolio in that way.
How easy would that be?
It's not easy. Look, I've been working on this for about a year, and I'm sure that we'll hear some news soon. But it takes time and determination, finding the right operating model, finding the right landlord, and also then, discussing all of the particulars. But again, I'm really looking forward to this because I'm really looking to see, okay, how easy it will be to operate one building compared to,
I'd love it.
800 units spread across the city.
We had an opportunity to do it, and we were working with someone that was wanting to sell the units. So we were short-term renting it while the units were being sold furnishing to use as a show apartment, but then we were given an office downstairs. We had our cleaning team scheduled.
Like
it was
a
very
warehouse,
easy.
a small warehouse.
Yeah, it was.
With a
I mean,
staff
how many units was this? 60. So we're not talking
Yeah.
skyscraper, but we're talking G plus 5, 10 a floor. Yeah, about 60. Oh, I loved it. Oh God, I loved it because just even checking the guest in, they came to the reception and you were running the reception desk. There's your key. There's that go. You weren't having to register that guest with the building because you were running the building.
Yeah.
So all these little things.
I'll tell you more.
A lot of time that's saved.
We went as far as in Brazil. So we have face recognition. We don't even have in some cases the reception.
Yeah. Facial recognition.
Yeah, for the guests.
To get in the building then in the apartment.
Yeah.
Did it work or did it break all the time?
It works.
Really?
Yeah, like a
when I
charm.
get into this tech, it's suddenly like I get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning.
But I think here it's about getting it right? So you cannot just install any tech, right?
Agreed.
But again, there still will be someone there, but
Yeah.
again, it's just not their main task to be there. So we have a building manager who is still there, maybe a little bit less at night, but in general at night you don't have that many check-ins anyway, right? So I think it's all about how do you make sure that it is the right tech. It is, your operations are also fine-tuned to this, right? Because for sure, for example, I don't know for you guys, but we do have 24/7 support, so somewhere you can always call and figure out. So I think it's all a combination, right? So it needs to work, hardware, software, and the processes. All needs to come together.
Agreed. And we do have that because when you get to a size, you have to have that human element on tap permanently. But tech, as much as I love it, because I think we're in hospitality, it's like perfect world, real world. In a perfect world, it works without fault every time. The guest understands it, no matter how simple the instructions are, everything works. But then in the real world, and especially when you start growing, those problems start growing. And so then you have to reappraise certain situations and say, okay,
I think it's a combination. No? I think that we are so used and spoiled by Dubai services that we forget that in majority of the world, there are no receptions at all.
Oh, agreed. Yeah.
Actually, I haven't stayed in Airbnb forever until this summer. So we were traveling and stopped somewhere in the middle of Italy with my family for like 2 nights. We hardly found the building's entrance because it was so small, right? So again, it's, I think that sometimes being here in Dubai, we forgot that majority of the world doesn't have reception in any building, doesn't have security in every building, right? So again, it's a little bit of a benchmark of
But buildings are effectively hotels. All have pools, all have tennis courts, all have reception, all have lifts, all have this because it's new. This
all
is the beauty
parking,
of Dubai. All have parking, everything works. It's not like the West where parking, especially somewhere like Italy, it's incredibly difficult to park, check yourself in, do this, this and this. And you are spoiled with that. And as we know, there is a lot
walking 15 minutes with the suitcases to our Airbnb because it was in the center of the city where you want to stay, but you cannot enter with the parking because it's a closed area.
No. And then you want to park somewhere, but you're probably going to get your car scratched, especially in Europe. Tiny spaces.
It's a rental. It's a rental.
Oh, it's a rental. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Just hand the keys back and cover it up when they do an inspection. It's all right. So going back onto Blueground and what you're doing, you have your own platform, which has been incredibly successful. And you very kindly have allowed AirDXB to put some of our properties on there, which has been brilliant. I mean, we're loving the minimum 39
So
stays.
let me maybe share these initiatives as well before I go into more detail. So
I don't need to share too much because we want anyone else to know. No, you can share away.
Yeah, so about a year and a half, maybe 2 ago, we had this idea in terms of, okay, we have built this amazing platform. And as I was saying before, right, we have about 85% of our booking that come directly through our website, one way and another. So we said, okay, we are not always able to satisfy all of the demand. Plus, also in terms of our portfolio, because of our target guest, is a very particular set of units, right? It's particular selected neighborhoods, selected sizes. For example, in Dubai, we don't do above 3 bedrooms. In some other cities, we do 4 bedrooms. Villas, we don't necessarily do, right? So we said, okay, there might be an opportunity here to partner with other professional operators who have similar vision to us in terms of guest service, landlord management, style. And so I said, okay, let's partner, let's allow them to list their properties on our website so we can create better market for everyone, essentially, right? And so it's been operating in US for a year and a half. Here in Dubai, we started on this effort as well last year, and we are onboarding a few more operators. And so tell me more, how was your experience with that?
It was awful. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Don't do it. It's good. I mean, it's a market segment which, if you leave it up to the big players like Booking.com, it's hit and miss. I was only looking at the numbers yesterday, and if we look at bookings that came in, I think about 4 or 5% was Blueground, which for what it is and how new we are and the level of units we got on there, perfectly fine. When you look at the properties being booked, the values they're being booked at, and of course it's the minimum 30-night stay, they're good bookings. They are very good bookings. So for us to start looking at different market segments, because what we found is we were utilising one platform, the main platform, there were issues. And so what we've done is gone down more of a mantra of wanting more control. This is what we found, is that things like, or platforms like Airbnb, you can't take deposits, you can't take money off platforms. And when you start getting to a certain size...
Not only, but I feel like they've also been getting greedy on their commission. They started from 3% way back. Now what is it, 15?
More. I mean, they added 2 to 3% if you don't pay in the same currency. Who pays in the same currency? So it's 19% now, so it's gone from 17 to 19.
And on top of this, in most of the world, I think here we are lucky that landlords don't pay taxes on that, but in most of the world, this counts to landlord revenue. If they're not resident, they pay taxes on the revenue, not on the net profit.
They have this. So when we looked at that, but what we found is because we were growing so much, and you can't take deposits, and then the level of sadly though, but issues that we're finding with the property, you're not getting the relevant support. So you've got to look at other different platforms, and we're using Booking.com a lot. And what I find with Booking.com is they've been brilliant. They treat themselves, or we perceive them, and how we've worked with them so far is we're a booking platform, guest, host, book, there you go. Whereas Airbnb we will know everything, and we will do everything, and we found to be incredibly guest-centric. So our cancellations have dropped by 81% since coming off Airbnb. So you think the level of revenue, which is being maintained rather than cancelled,
I can't say about the cancellation, because again, for us, Airbnb is a smaller channel. It's still an important one we work with.
Do you use them?
We do use, but again, because it's 15% of our revenue. It's even less, right? Because it's across a variety of channels. I think I haven't seen like the massive cancellation, but I've seen several issues where, as you said, like it's so guest-centric, where we would have someone stay with us and they would cancel it, declare it fraud, and return all the money, even for the stays that guest stayed there, and then leave it to us to evict the guest.
It goes on and on and on.
And this is just like few situations that I was dealing with, right?
And we had them as a sole provider. So the level that we found, and then the big one we had was the level of breakages in the apartments. So we couldn't take money off platform. We had to go through Airbnb, and then we found that trying to get money from them. And
impossible.
You start talking at the size that we are. You start talking about millions of dollars a year in not being refunded. So it's incredibly difficult.
Provide the proof, and then, for example, if it's something like a big operation, you probably buy in bulk, so you don't know when you bought the specific items. So like it's.
Oh, we do, and we went into it. We were doing before and after photos. They were stamped. We had everything, but then it gets to a point of saying we are spending so much time, energy, and money into a situation which we shouldn't be. So let's go further afield and work with companies that want to work with us and that treat us as a management company. You are presenting the property. It's you to deal with the guests. Get on with it. And we found working with Booking.com have been brilliant. And now we've moved out to several other platforms. And we've got some very big partnerships on the horizon, which are fantastic, which I can't say too much about now. Then when we start talking about Blueground and this sort of stuff, so bringing this back into Blueground, because that's why you're here, let's talk about you, is that to answer your question, it has been very, very good. We're really, really happy with it because it's bringing a different market that we're not involved in. It's bringing the right type of clientele. Our product suits that. It's brilliant to see Blueground be specific over what you want. You didn't just say, give us your, all your units. You were like, no, we'll have this, and this, which is brilliant because we want to work with people that do want to go into the market with a quality product. So from our perspective, now the outside of that, I can't comment because my team deals with the logistics and all the rest of it, Blueground. But from my perspective, the bookings that we're seeing, the quality of guests coming through has been brilliant. It has been really, really good. And
good to see.
I think things will build with Blueground. I think we'll see more coming in, and it's just brilliant to see a platform that isn't doing what everyone else is doing, isn't mass market in the sense when we start talking about the real big boys. It's good, it's great, and we're new though, aren't we? I think we're 2-3 months with you guys so far. So look, I mean, here's to many years of working well together, and as we grow, we're going to experience more of what Blueground can offer.
Absolutely.
And it's so weird for me because back in 2018 when I formed the business, you always have your business plan, you always put down main competitors, and Blueground was there, and it was always something that you looked at and thought they've got it right. You know, the way that every property is furnished the same, so the client, as you said, so the guest always checks into the property that they know that they're used to and the rest of it. And now we're working with you, it's brilliant. So from our perspective,
it's amazing.
It's really, really good to see. So this market going forward, if we start talking about Dubai, the tourism numbers, who the influx, is it going to grow, is it not going to grow, is it going to plateau? How do you see very quickly the market in general for Dubai going forward?
No, I think, look, for me, Dubai has great things ahead of it. I was thinking about this as well recently after the looking through Dubai tourism briefing, right? So I think we're lucky here enough to have regulators who are interested in developing the city. They share with the industries, they meet with us on a quarterly basis. So I was looking at this, and the brilliancy of Dubai chocolate just, I think, tells all, no? So who ever heard about Dubai chocolate a year ago? No one. So they have created this amazing marketing campaigns. You can hate it, you can like it, who cares? Everyone is talking about Dubai chocolate. Yeah. To the point that I've been asked by my relatives to bring it for them for Christmas. I mean, this is big, no? And I've been living in Dubai for 10 years, right? So they know they've been here, right? And so I think that there are, just to bring it back, right? I think there are great things happening for Dubai. I think Dubai helps us in terms of developing the tourism and economy a lot. They have very clear in their mind what they want to do. They're going very steadily towards that, and I think so we'll see, we can see bumps and lumps here for sure. I can't say that, you know, it's going to be always great and it's always going to grow, but I think overall, if you're looking at the long-term perspective, we have a lot of new things to come. I'm sure you've heard about this and in the research, the gaming is coming, we don't know when, but for sure it's going to be here.
Well, Raqs in Abu Dhabi have gone for their license, the MGM have, so it's imminent, look, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, who would build a Caesar palace in Dubai without doing that, right? So for sure it's coming at some point. And even if it's not coming right away in Dubai, we're still going to see effects, right? Even if people are traveling to Ras Al Khaimah and Abu Dhabi, they're going to pass by through Dubai.
Of course. I'd be surprised if it doesn't come. I think Dubai, I said this before, I was on another podcast and there was a viral clip which has had now 1 million views. Famous. A million views, and it's me saying the speculation, it's something that I've been saying now for years. We'll start off in Raq because Raq doesn't have the infrastructure, doesn't have it, but they've been given time to launch, make the money from it, build. It will go to Abu Dhabi. The CEO of MGM, he's put in a license for it Q4 last year, and then we'll come to Dubai because Dubai, the infrastructure is ready to go. I mean, Dubai could probably click its fingers in 6 months, it's up and running. So there's big things afoot, isn't there? So I think it's safe to say the Blueground are here to stay, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And it's lovely to chat to you and, you know, hear what your thoughts are about what's going on. And as I said, from our perspective, it's brilliant to be able to now work with Blueground.
We're excited as well, and we should continue and see what else it's going to bring.
No, we'll do
in terms of collaboration.
Thank you.
If you would like to learn how AirDXB can dramatically increase the return on your assets, drop us an email at info@air-dxb.com or visit our website www.air-dxb.com.